they still talking about these topics in 2022. How is that affecting patients that go to the pharmacy?
What is not okay and what is killing people and creating toxic environments is the fact that you don't even realize that you have now an implicit bias, and that's where that comes in. You have an implicit bias or a subconscious bias against groups of people based upon things that aren't even true. That's what is killing people, and that's what's creating toxic environments. For instance, I'm gonna use the ones that has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with race because everything is not about race. Because I tell you, I'm not trying to help people understand the Black experience because some people are never gonna understand it because you're not Black. You're not gonna get it. But what you can get is this experience like this. Most of the time when I'm in a workshop, I'll ask people, if someone's not making eye contact with you, what does that mean? And, you know, and I'll open up for you ladies. If somebody's not making eye contact with you, what does that mean to you? What's the story that you might make up in your head about that person?
Well, I consider their culture. For example, when
pause. We're going to get there, but I just want to know on the surface, if somebody just, you know, they're not making eye contact with you, what do most people start to think in their head?
But they're just shy. I don't think anything like cruel. I just think that they're shy.
I'm gonna say
shy? Okay.
I think for us, because of our characters and our mannerisms, we're probably not gonna give you the answer that you're looking for.
Okay.
I want to say as a group here that we look at people with that grace and mercy. So okay. our point of views about things might be a little bit more spiritual. But if I had to look at the unspiritual side of things and the way I've heard other people talk, when people don't look at them, they may think that either I intimidate them. That's why they're not looking at me, or something about me they don't like. And in all actuality, my personal point of view, when things like that happen is, you know, that maybe that person is going through something. I don't center it on it being about me. For other people, it might be a little bit different.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'll tell you what most people will say, okay? Because I recognize we kind of have a different lens, but I'm even going to talk about that different lens that we have too. But most people say that people are disengaged, especially in a leader. And I'm really speaking to leaders and especially hiring leaders. They're disengaged. They're lying. They're not interested in what I'm saying. A lot of things like that, right? Okay. Sometimes they might say they're shy. But what you say, Shamita?
So when you put it that way, that makes sense. If I'm speaking to my leader and they're not making eye contact, and they're just kind of all over the place, to me, that makes me feel like, okay, they're not taking me serious right now.
Right. And a leader to a direct report, same thing. So let me use this example then with Dr. Mariko and Dr. Tiff. Even though I know, and where Dr. Mariko is going, even though I know that even from a spiritual, even from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, that just if somebody's not making eye contact with me, it could be their culture. So some cultures are such that not making eye contact is really respectful behavior for them. So they don't make eye contact because that's how they show respect. And even though I know that, and some of neurodiversity, so someone who's on the autism spectrum, they may not make eye contact too. From a leadership standpoint, you have to know that because you could be missing out on top talent, a great candidate, just because they're not making eye contact and you have in your mind decided they're lying or disengaged or not going to be a good team player, they're not listening to you. You could make that assumption. And that's usually where I go. But I also want to talk about it from the angle of even parenting. This is something that I have to even be cognizant of with my child, because just because my child isn't looking at me or not making eye contact with me when I'm trying to have a conversation doesn't mean that they're not listening. And I know as a parent, sometimes I think, oh, well, she's not even listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 16-year-old. She's not always looking at me when I'm talking, especially if I'm saying something she don't want to hear. She might not be looking at me. So even from a parenting standpoint, I have to think about, what does that mean? How does someone actually show me respect? Or how does somebody show me that they're engaged and that they're listening to me? And I don't really know that until I actually have a conversation with them about, what does that look like for me and them? And that's what grace culture is about, me growing in my awareness about how I want to be respected and what I have now, how I've labeled other people based upon what I need in myself to feel like I'm respected or I'm worthy or I'm valued, right? And so even from a parenting standpoint, I've had to kind of like think about, how do I extend grace even from that standpoint? Because some people do not respond always in the way that you would respond. And that was one of the things that, when you go back to what are those points that I think, like Dr. Mariko, you asked, what are the two, or what is that one time where you really felt like, oh my gosh, like this is the experience? It wasn't a one-time thing, and that's how it is for us as a people. It's not the one experience. It's the consistent experiences that just keep piling on and on and on. So that's why I say that these are my two bookends. The experience of you saying that you didn't know I was a human, and then the experience of hearing and knowing that you are using one of the worst words in a professional environment, and there's not going to be any accountability for it. That's when I had to say, okay, I see what it is.
Mm-hmm. And then Dr. LaCoya, to kind of sum it up, or as we move to summing it up, so for people in our audience who may say, why are they still talking about these topics in 2022? How is that affecting patients that go to the pharmacy?
Yes, that is a really good question. And I can sum that up in one sentence. The biggest risk to patient safety right now is a toxic work environment. That is the biggest risk to patient safety. The day your employee comes to you and say that they are miserable in their job, they are a patient safety risk. When I tell you that this generation that we are working with today, their mantra is, I don't get paid enough to care. Can we really afford to have people working in our departments who are handling drugs, verifying drugs, and deciding who gets what and when they get it? Can we afford to have that type of team member in our department that says, I don't get paid enough to care? I don't think we can. And I want you to understand that I'm not attaching this to just pay, because we do know that we do have a huge gap in our pay versus value when it comes to our pharmacy technician team members. We've known that for a long time. That was another initiative that I talked about till I was almost blue in the face at my organization about how we were not paying our technician team members enough. We know that has been a journey in pharmacy just in general, but people will work for lower pay to be in an environment that they feel valued and respected in. Trust me, I have walked away from a 6-figure income 3 times. 3 times I've walked away from a 6-figure income, because no job is worth my peace and my joy. And when I tell you that pharmacy is the Titanic and culture is our iceberg, hear me when I say we are taking on water really fast. So when we talk about patient safety. Patient safety is at a huge risk because of the culture of pharmacy, because of the normalized culture and behaviors of our pharmacy leaders. And until we get that together, this is going to be a sinking ship.
And so as we close, I would like for each one of us to talk about something memorable from this conversation and what really stood out. And I'll go first. So I thought it was really significant when Dr. Q, you mentioned that you worked with the CDC and another organization in regards to COVID-19, and you made a comment that apparently other people in the room had not considered, and it was about the distance that people would have to travel to get access to whatever it was regarding COVID-19. And because of that, and I felt like that's a representation, because you knew what it was like to have to use public transportation and your options are limited as far as how far you can drive. And so when we want to implement certain things around COVID-19 and other measures, we need to consider how are these people going to get here. But because you did that, they ended up putting that on one of the questions to the healthcare providers: is your location on the bus route? And that just kind of summing it up. But that was really significant. And it just really reminded me, which I already knew this, how important representation is when you're trying to develop programs. You say, I want to help everybody. Do you have the right people on your committee to make sure that those individuals that you are trying to help are really being represented? Because you may be missing important factors that you need to better help them.
Yes, absolutely.
And just to add to that, because that was significant for me, it's very important for a lot of these workplaces to understand the importance of diversity, especially when you're serving the public, when they're different people that you're serving, to be able to meet people's needs. And what kind of stood out for me was, you mentioning adding that type of value and having people understand and look to things at a different lens. I call that like the unknown, unmet need. They don't know about it to know that it is a tool that they need in their toolbox in order to be able to effectively serve the public and serve so many different types of people in this world, especially people of color. So that's my adding. I thought that was important.
Yeah.
Dr. Shamita?
For me, I think what was the most significant, well, for me personally, the most significant impact was when you mentioned like how the toxicity in the pharmacy is really affecting patient safety. So that has me thinking like of ways when my technicians come to me, they make that comment, like, I don't get paid enough to deal with this. What can I do to shift their attitude so that we aren't risking our patient safety? So,
yeah.
And then Dr. LaQuoya, if you could close us out and just leave our audience with one last thing, that if they don't remember anything else, what is it that you want them to take away from this episode?
So I really want people to, take away from this episode is, you don't know what you don't know. And it's okay to say, I don't know. But what I remember about pharmacy school is they told us it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to go look that up, right? That's what we were told to tell our preceptors. I don't know, but we're going to go look it up. So I want you to think about if you had a family member or a really close friend and they came to you and they told you, I've been diagnosed with this particular, diagnosis, and here are the symptoms, and here's what I'm experiencing. What can I do about it? What would you do? Most of us would start doing some research and looking it up, right?
Right.
That's what we would do. And when we went to pharmacy school, they gave us a lot of knowledge and resources to treat all kinds of conditions. But they didn't just throw us out here to the wolves. They gave us the support that we needed to help us make the right decisions, because book knowledge does not always translate to how do I actually treat people, right? And so what I am providing through Grace Culture, the curriculum that I have created, the support system that I've created, the coaching that I have created is basically preceptorship for pharmacy leaders around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because you can have all the knowledge and that you can get from a webinar and reading a book. You can read all the anti-racism books you want to read. But do you know how to apply it in a situation when you're sitting in a meeting and someone uses the N-word and you have a position of leadership and power? Do you know what to do? That's what it comes down to. When your team member comes to you and they say, I'm having this experience, are you going to try and talk them out of the experience that they're having? Or do you know how to listen, grow through it, respect them, hold yourself and other team members accountable, have the courageous conversation to do it, and then keep in mind the equity that is involved of the fact that you are in a power position to do something to change the environment? That's what I'm asking of you. Do you know what to do to change the environment? And if you don't know what to do, that's why you need me.
I just wanted to say that what you're doing is amazing. And I want to thank you for even creating a summit like this. This is about to be great.
Yes.
Awesome. So the link will be provided below our video here. So we'll make sure that we provide the link for you so that you can go ahead and register and sign up. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. LaKoya's on fire right now.
Yes, girl.
We'd like to thank our audience for watching today. Please remember to like,
comment,
share,
subscribe.
And we'll see you soon. Have a good day.
Bye for now.